Someone recently asked what the best test is to assess for estrogen dominance, and that's a really good question. Um, when it comes to estrogen dominance, in my clinical experience, I find that it's really the most useful to screen for symptoms of estrogen dominance. So, and as per usual, nothing that I say should be construed as medical advice. It's just for informational purposes only. Please talk to your personal healthcare provider for any medical advice that pertains to your case. But the things that I look for in my patients to give me clues as to whether there might be some estrogen dominance would include having really heavy menstrual cycles, so like really heavy menstrual flow or really prolonged menstrual flow. Sometimes having a lot of breast tenderness can be associated with estrogen dominance. Having particularly painful periods, known as dysmenorrhea, can be associated with estrogen dominance. If I know that they have uterine fibroids, then that's something that can be a clue that there might be more of an estrogen dominant picture going on. And there's other clues that can be afoot as well, but those are some of the ones to look out for. And so if I see those clinical patterns or see some of those symptoms, then that's something that makes me think we might be dealing with some estrogen dominance, and we may want to deal with, or might want to start working with some hormone regulating herbs. Herbs I find tend to work the most successfully in my practice for helping to regulate estrogen dominance. When we're looking at helping to improve the metabolism of estrogen into more favorable breakdown products, then there are non-herbal things that can be quite useful. But in terms of actually regulating the level of those herbs, clinically herbs seem to be the most helpful. Herbs like Vitex or wild yam or Angelica sinensis, those are my top three favorite ones, but there are others that can be helpful too, like lady's mantle or oh my goodness, that's what I'm looking for. White pond lily is the common name for it. I can't remember the Latin binomial for it off the top of my head. Blue cohosh being another one. There's others. So for hormone regulated, those are kind of my go-tos. In terms of actual laboratory testing, there are different options that we have. In my experience and to my knowledge, there are three main ways that we can test sex hormones. We can test them in the blood, we can test them in the urine, and we can test them in the saliva. And each of the fluids that are being tested tell us about different things. So the hormones in the urine would be typically more of the metabolites, like the breakdown products of those of the estrogens. It's kind of like what the body's getting rid of. The levels in the blood are going to be more reflective of what the body's, say, actively using, and then saliva is more of a sort of a mishmash of those two. Now the challenges is that, or one of the challenges are that the hormones in the blood are going to be, more on the more dynamic end of the spectrum. So even though it's telling us more information about what's happening in real time, if you have a blood draw done at 1 o'clock in the afternoon or 6 o'clock later that day, or if there's a particularly stressful time happening, or a person didn't get great sleep the night before, like there are various things that can impact the levels. And anyone who's ever looked at the reference range for sex hormones, it's like, oh, like at this particular phase of the menstrual cycle, the range might be somewhere from 200 to 1800 or something like that. It's like this huge range. So there's a lot of variability, whereas in the urine, there's still going to be variability, but there's going to be, in my experience at least, a better sense of what's happening more on a bit more of a consistent basis. They're not going to be quite as prone to some of those other variables per se. So anyways, there's advantages to the various types of testing, but essentially looking at the relative levels of estrogen to progesterone, of estrogen to testosterone, will give us the best sense of whether there's an estrogen dominant pattern happening or not. Again, these numbers can vary, but that tends to be the most useful way to know more definitively, does there seem to be an estrogen dominant picture happening? So like most things, it's a combination of what's happening in terms of clinical symptoms, and then we use lab work to try to flesh out the hypotheses, the clinical hypotheses that we're putting together based on what we're seeing with our patients. And oftentimes the blood work will bear out what we're seeing clinically, and it's kind of just that extra layer of confirmation that we're hopefully barking up the right tree. And of course, one of the advantages of lab tests are that we can then do repeat testing later on to see, oh, as your heavy menstrual flow is settling down, as the painful periods are clearing up, as that breast tenderness is getting better, we're Also seeing that your follow-up lab results are showing that there is no longer an estrogen dominance, or the imbalance between estrogen and other sex hormones seems to be, the gap between them seems to be narrowing. So I hope that answered your question. If you have other questions, if you or anyone else have questions about this topic or any other questions, just post them in the comment section below. If you haven't already signed up for my mailing list, please consider doing so. I send out weekly newsletters summarizing all of the videos that I post on social media, and then also just any announcements that I have about live Q&A sessions or other things that might be going on that are of interest. So to sign up for my newsletter, if you're watching this on Instagram, please go to my bio page, or go to my Instagram bio, click on the link tree, and you can sign up from there. If you're watching this on Facebook or YouTube, then I have a link to the mailing list in the description below. I hope this was useful, and I will leave it there for now.